On behalf of the Super Geeks, for those of you out making your voice heard, be safe, be careful, Black Lives Matter. Now, the Real Super Geeks.
We almost didn't do the anime opener.
And welcome to our latest show. We have a lot of topics to cover tonight on a lot of different fronts. We're going to start off with some Star Trek topics. Today, the top of the news around Star Trek is the announcement that Star Trek Las Vegas is not being completely canceled, but is in fact going to be moved to December of 2020. And they're actually moving locations as well to Caesars. Sean, help me out here.
The Caesars Conference Center.
Caesars Conference Center, right.
It's actually, if some clarification on this, folks, a lot of folks are thinking that this is actually at Caesars. It is not. It actually, the Caesars Conference Center is connected to Harrods. And it's actually...
And it's fairly new, right?
Brand new. Yeah. It's a $375 million facility that was just recently built. And it is actually part of what's called the Link in that area of the Strip there. And it is, I hope they keep it there because it is a way better destination point for a Star Trek convention than the Rio, which is close to nothing. I mean, the Rio is a mile off the Strip on Flamingo. Whereas this is right on the Strip. Everything is there. You've got a multitude of entertainment choices, from shows to clubs to restaurants. It's bars. It's all right there. They have just shopping galore through there. What they call the high roller, which is kind of like it's that Ferris wheel thing that goes around. It's like the Eye in London.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yep, It's just like a smaller version of it. That's there if you want to. I've been on it once, was disappointed. But this is going to be great because now when you're at the convention, you're not going to need to catch an Uber to get out of the Rio to go somewhere else and do something else.
Where did you say it was again?
It's at the Caesars Conference Center, which is connected to the Harrah's, and it's at the area called the Link, LINQ. And
I needed Harrah's is what I needed to hear.
Harrah's is the convention hotel, right?
Yeah, correct. It's a hotel casino resort. Yeah, that's right there.
Isn't that one of the buildings that Musk was building his tunnel under in Las Vegas?
No, I have no clue. Nothing ever came of that.
Because there was some news last week that he had finished boring that tunnel link
in Vegas.
Between a couple of casinos.
As far as I know, the Boring Company is kind of stalled in its project. It was really ambitious, but then ended up being a lot more lackluster than what they planned.
Yeah,
and in that sentence, you have summed up Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Oh,
wait.
SpaceX
works.
That's not true.
Wait.
Yes.
We had the very first launch of Americans from American soil in a decade happened this past week.
In a commercial vehicle.
And this first stage booster landed successfully and will be reused for a later mission.
And both astronauts made it safely to the International Space Station.
Yep.
And they looked fabulous doing it.
And he's got that going for him, but the
very stylish spacesuits.
In other news, his Starship engine spectacularly exploded on its launch platform.
That's going to happen, though, until they get those Raptor engines figured out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do a quick round robin where we combine our intro and your hot take on whether you think STLV moving to December and moving to a new hotel is a good thing, a bad thing, or makes no difference. We're going to start with none other than the eyebrows of doom himself, Ross Bullock. What do you think?
Rescheduling over canceling seems like pretty sound, like a sound decision, and a venue change has been overdue, well overdue. With just last year, Rio had 2 or 3 cases of Legionnaire's disease in their hotel. It's a nice enough
a couple of
place.
years ago. But yeah.
I enjoyed both times I went there for STLV, but they definitely needed an upgrade for a convention that is really a prestige convention now.
Right.
Indeed. And hailing from Arkansas, which is being battered by storms and a possible hurricane, our former mascot Index, now just proudly known to us as Sun Seal. Sun, you have a new avatar for us this week. How are you doing, and what do you think of STLV in December?
Ross, I know we were supposed to meet in the same place, but I think I might have gotten lost.
The white square.
Gray Lives Matter? There you are!
Yeah, I think I've gotten a bit lost.
GDI scum!
I swear I'm just lost. Absolutely swear I'm just lost.
I have my eye on you. The eyes of Cain are upon you, son.
I will be there shortly. After I convince these people I am not Skrin.
Well, I think you look fabulous.
As
So,
for
Launch
which we'll
today.
which we'll be talking about shortly. Son,
As
what do you think
for
about STLV?
I've
December?
never been to an STLV.
Have you ever wanted to be?
Honestly, no. Because everybody talks about it being big, and the big thing out of everybody, when everybody talks about conventions, they say go to a smaller convention. Because I'm not good around people, like a whole bunch of people. So yeah, no, the STLV, maybe like a couple of decades ago when it was a smaller thing, but not now.
Well,
Well,
I will
I think-
go ahead. I'm sorry, Carlos. Go ahead.
I was going to just say that I think, yes, it is a very large convention. When you go into the big halls, it's huge. It is a sea of seats. But I find it to be a very intimate convention in a lot of ways, primarily because of my fellow super geeks who also attend, and we basically just hang out with each other and various celebrities that we've come to know over the years in Star Trek land. And so it feels a lot like a small convention, despite the fact that a lot of people are in attendance. Maybe we just happen to be fortunate because of who we know and what we're trying to do. But I've been 3 times and have really had a good time every single time. But I'll get to my opinion about December in a minute. So, Son, if that sums you up, let's move back. Sean, I didn't actually ask you your opinion on. Well, you did give your opinion. You're glad it's happening.
Yeah,
in December,
I'll be real quick here on this. I'm very.
Oh, but before you do that, are you wearing pants?
I am tonight. Yes.
Oh, what is happening to you?
I know I'm slacking so much.
Like literally slacking.
Yep, with slacks. I'm very much in favor of this, of the new location in particular, and I'm very curious to see how the time of the year is going to work out as well, because it's going to be a lot more comfortable for people from December 9th through the 13th.
You mean in terms of the weather?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to get 50 to 5, 50, mid 50s and mid 60s the entire time. And it's going to get cool at night. You're going to get down to the 30s and 40s. Some people were saying, "Oh my God, how cold does it get?" Like somebody pulled up like the average temperature in December at night is 27, but that's misleading because that happens like towards the end of the month where it's just in the low 20s the whole last part of the month. It's very weird how weather works here. Some places are like this where weather just takes a drastic turn like the 3rd week of December in Vegas. So those
I think that's known as winter.
Yes, that would be winter. Yes. Perhaps you've heard of it.
I have heard of it
winter.
Occasionally.
What is this winter that you guys are talking about?
It's coming. It's coming, Jason.
Perfect.
For you especially.
It's going to be pretty. It's pretty comfortable. It's a little chilly, but it's pretty comfortable still. It's not ridiculous, but like people are worrying about.
Well, let's move over to Jason, who lives in Salt Lake City. Just moved there. Will soon be having his first. Well, you moved there during last winter, right?
I did.
So you got to experience.
I got here in October. This was actually, from what I understand, is a very mild winter. Like we had one kind of epic snowstorm for Thanksgiving, about 2 feet of snow I got at my house because I'm up on the west side of the valley. I have a little bit of elevation. Like my neighborhood, like where my neighborhood ends, that's where like the Ochre Mountains start.
Oh, I know exactly where that is.
Yeah. So I'm
sorry, go ahead, finish.
So we had a very late winter. So
I believe that last year's STLV was your first, correct?
yes, it was.
So having experienced it for the first time at what apparently is now its former location, and looking to a new location and a new time of year, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, location isn't a big deal to me. I think anywhere I can go and have fun with people that I enjoy being around is really what I'm looking for. And so, it doesn't matter to me if it's at the Rio or if it's at the convention center. As long as I'm there with people I want to be around, I'm going to have a good time. So
all right.
And I'm going to try to make it if COVID allows.
Yes. Well, I think that's going to be the issue. Travis, how about you? Have you ever been to an STLV? Are you interested in going to an STLV?
I have never been to Star Trek Las Vegas. As far as interest, I mean, the interest is certainly there. I've never been to a convention period, so I wouldn't exactly know what to expect.
You should have a Zoom meeting with Jason. He can clue you in. Or Sean, or both.
We could maybe if we do go, if it is held and we go, we should do a special like convention primer.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And I like to point out what Carlos says is absolutely correct, and that is, at this point, this would be my 18th convention in a row I've gone to. And for about the last 6-7 years, my whole purpose of going is to hang out with my friends. So it's because that's
and
what
your
it's all
kids.
about. My
Awesome.
kids, of course.
I've been to 3. The third time I actually hung out at a booth the entire time. I was manning the G&T show booth.
Oh,
That
was a lot of fun. Got to interview a few people, including the infamous Manu.
Indeed. Travis, you think it's going to work in December? Would you be more likely to go in December than August?
I'm certainly pulling for them. I mean, I'm not going to say like, oh, they should, like I hope it rots in hell. No, I'm not going to do that. If they can make it work, and if they can make it work in a safe manner, I am all for it. I mean, good for it. Like, what I was also going to say is that it's worth noting that last year I was actually offered a free ticket to go to Star Trek Las Vegas.
Really?
Star Trek group. The only reason I really didn't go was because I had no more vacation time, because I had taken my vacation time to go up to Canada and with girlfriend. So it was just when I was like, well, it's just like, I'm just like,
priorities, Travis.
I really wish I could.
Yeah,
priorities.
Yes, priorities. I kind of wish I could have gone, because I guess it would I can't remember, but I almost feel like Aaron Eisenberg may have been there, and he of course, like a few months later he passed away, and I really, really wanted to give him a personal thank you for a comment that he actually left on one of my posts, and coulda, shoulda, woulda, and oh well.
Anthony Rapp favorited one of my tweets this past week.
Who?
What?
Nice.
Anthony Rapp. He plays Stamets.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
That's like the third time he's favorited one of my tweets. So I'm just saying. Okay, Justin, over to you. What do you think? Success or failure in December?
I think later on in the year might be a good time for it, considering, like Sean said, it's cooler. It's in a better location for everybody, so we'll have to see how it works out. Hopefully, COVID doesn't cancel it. Let's hope COVID doesn't cancel it.
And that brings us to me, and I think COVID is going to cancel it, or at least hurt it a lot in terms of attendance. I think, well, we know how pandemics work. We've had them before, and you always have a second wave. It's usually bigger, and it's usually the following winter. late fall, winter, which is exactly when they're scheduling this. I love the fact that they're moving it to the new convention center. That's been I've always felt like the Rio, as Sean pointed out, was a little on the low rent side. I mean, it's not bad. I've had a good time there the times that I've been there, but you know, a new top-notch facility like this, I think, would be great for STLV, and fun to discover. But I just think even if COVID were not an issue, I think the timing is not great. December is I mean, it's the holidays, and people only have so much money to travel, and they're going to be traveling home. You're competing with family and home and holidays in that month. I just don't see it. I mean, unless they're really bringing down their expectations of it, like they're not expecting to make a lot of money for it or for it to be a huge splash. I think otherwise they're going to be disappointed. I just think that there's too many things going against it in December. You know, frankly, January would be a better time of year because you're past the holidays. It's a slow time of year. Travel is less expensive. I mean, travel in December is about as expensive as travel gets in the year.
Not early December though.
Well,
early
not
December's
early
pretty good.
December. What are the dates again for this?
The 9th through the
9th
13th.
through the 13th.
It's getting
It
close.
ends a day
though.
before Hayden's birthday.
The cheapest cruise rates are like the first 2 weeks in December.
Mm.
So
Well, either way, I think it's going to be a budget issue for people. You know, it's the end of the year. You know, their budgets have been used up. It's the end of this particular year with, you know, a lousy economy. I wish them luck. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know if I could make it this year. I mean, I'll probably try.
They could have probably put it there just as a stopgap to keep from canceling it altogether for now to see if things do improve, but they might wind up.
Maybe, but I don't know that whether it's great. Well, I mean, if it's great, actually, it is very instructive because it shows that if even in a bad year you get a lot of people attending, that's a really good thing. But
they have
Carlos,
a refund policy, don't they?
I think we're there. I agree with you entirely, but I think there's also that factor that we've discussed before with people being as cooped up as they are they just gonna want to get out, and this is an opportunity for them to do this.
I could, you know, if you were doing it in September, I would say yes. If you were doing it, well, I mean, August. I mean, summertime is when COVID is going to be, you know, ratcheting back anyway. So people that's when they're going to get their you know, cabin fever out, you know, and you're going to see probably a lot of, not necessarily airline travel, but a lot of people, you know, hitting the road this summer. I know I'm planning on it unless something really bad happens with COVID, but because, you know, we've been stuck. I mean, for me especially, I travel a lot. So for me to spend these many months in the same building has been terrible. Not terrible. It's just I have a very itchy foot. I have the sense of wanderlust that's just, it's growing. So anyway.
Imagine this conversation that, kids, I'm sorry, we can't see Grandma this year for Christmas.
We have to see Mr. Spock.
We have to see Anson Mount. That's why.
Kelsey Grammer.
That's what she said.
Kelsey Grammer is going to be at STLV.
Oh, awesome! That's fucking great. Now I'm sold. Actually, I've never seen him in a
what was the name
before.
of his? What was the name of his character in that?
Morgan Bateson.
Morgan Bateson, right?
And
I always remember it was the
They did a book
USS
on him.
Bozeman because it's
It
in
was the
Montana
Bozeman.
where I went to
They
school.
did. They
Yeah.
actually did a book on him.
Yeah, I read it. It was actually pretty good.
There were
Yeah.
several. He made
more than one book.
Yeah, the character made recurring appearances throughout the TNG relaunch series.
Didn't he join Section 31? Am I making that
I
up?
don't think so.
No,
Okay, for
you're
some reason
thinking
I
He
of-
says it whispering like we all can't hear him.
The ship the Bozeman was destroyed during the during the battle for Sector 001, and he and most of his crew got transferred to a new Sovereign class ship.
Of
Yeah,
course.
Supposedly he commissioned, like he brought the Enterprise E online.
Yep.
Oh,
And
well, that's
Was
a
it
nice
the
kind
E or
of
was
way.
it the Sovereign?
Captain of
No, it was the Enterprise E.
Enterprise
Yeah, it would have been the E.
He was actually the captain of the Enterprise E for the shakedown cruise, along with
Too bad
Scott
it's
and
not
engineer.
canon.
It's
Okay,
book
so
my
let's move to
favorite
our next
novels.
Star Trek topic.
It's book canon.
Well, yeah, whatever that means.
And it has its own
So-
enclosed story, so
Whatever.
it's canon to somebody.
Ish. I mean, there's a lot of books that
Everything is.
subsequent movies and series have rendered. I mean, Dark Mirror, which was I think we've talked about this before,
Yeah.
which was the TNG Mirror Universe book.
That's
It was
different. That was
excellent.
before they made the books all part of one big universe.
Yeah. Well,
That's all.
That was when all the books were just standalone one shot.
It's a different universe. Let's just put it that way.
Here's the thing.
okay.
It's not
Nothing
the
is
on-screen
canon,
universe,
but everything is true.
Here's
Right.
the thing. Here's the thing about book shipping. Primary canons will destroy them.
Yeah.
All right.
Or Dayton will do his best to retcon it.
And I appreciate Dayton's efforts to do that. And we should actually have Dayton Ward back on the show sometime
David
soon.
Mack
we should.
too. He's David Mack as well.
Yeah.
David Mack, what was he something big came out that he was in charge of. What was it?
Forgot.
It was some big publishing thing that
Sorry, David.
He's been working really hard on his own original stories.
no, but this is Star Trek related.
There's a couple of the other original stories.
Let me see if I can find that really quick. What was it? Anyway,
Okay, so
Don't
the
forget
tunnel
Kevin Dillmore,
that-
Dayton's hetero life mate.
Time tunnel.
the Elon Musk tunnel is under the Las Vegas Convention Center.
Okay, so it's
It's basically
on Paradise Road,
a glorified people mover from one end of the convention center to the other.
which is just dumb because they already have that. So
But it doesn't
No,
go
it's-
underground.
it's-
Sean.
It's going from the South Hall to a new building they're supposed to be building on the west side.
yeah, they're building it. What they're doing, it's across the street on Paradise, and it's part of the it was part of the deal for the Raiders Stadium, the Allegiant Stadium. That if they were going to get the stadium, if the city was going to get the stadium for the Raiders, money had to be allocated to expand the convention center. So,
okay,
I
so we're not
saw-
going
I
to talk
know
about civic planning because this is a Super Geeks show, and we've only gotten through one topic.
No.
Does it get geekier than civic planning?
No.
Well,
This is why
That
our
is-
shows last 3
It
hours.
it is geek, but it is not super.
Super geek.
Okay, so we're going to move to our next Star Trek topic, which I think is an
Thank you.
interesting article that I came across in on the Den of Geek website, in which they were claiming that Star Trek is going retro in its format, that it is going back to episodic, an episodic format. I guess because of the quote unquote failure of the serialized format that we've seen in Picard and Discovery.
Oh,
The series isn't out yet.
No, but okay, so first of all, I'm going to say I told you so to Carlos. Because Akiva Goldsmith himself said Strange New Worlds will be more episodic.
And I agreed with that. What I said was it is not a return to 60s formatted episodes.
Didn't we talk about this for like an hour last week?
Yes,
Yeah.
we
No,
did.
2 weeks ago.
2
we
weeks
did.
ago.
Okay, 2 weeks ago.
And Carlos wouldn't stop complaining.
But we beat this to death.
Do we really need to bring this topic up again?
I just said I was just telling Carlos. I told him so.
Well, what we were talking about 2 weeks ago was specifically around Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
This article is about basically claiming that the same thing is we're going to be seeing a similar kind of approach in Discovery Season 3.
I don't think you're gonna. I don't see how you can see that. I mean, I don't see how they can see that. Like because
It
ultimately, when you look at
doesn't
the
now-
trailers, it's
yeah.
about reestablishing the Federation.
Nothing's even been announced yet. We barely
At
even
this
know what
point,
what's going to
Just
be.
like the disjointed story of the trailers is the first half of this season is them finding Burnham in the first place
Yeah.
and then trying to rebuild the Federation.
Personally, I'm hoping that's. I hope that doesn't get too boring. It's like, it's only how many episodes are we expecting this season? Is it going to be another 13, 14?
How many episodes was it to find Spock?
Yeah, exactly. It took half the season.
it wasn't boring.
Well, I know, but
That was
when
a
the
lot of
star of
murder
he's not the
between
star of
them.
the show, Burnham
Half the
is.
season to find Berman. Then we have two or three episodes after that, and it's going to be another year and a half before we get another season.
It's
I'm just looking
13
forward to-
episodes.
13 this year. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I don't
just
think
looking forward.
I don't think it's going to be
Burnham.
very long before we find Burnham. I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time finding Burnham.
I'm
Just don't
I'm
give
just
us
looking
just don't give us 7 lights and then give us 7 more lights.
Because remember, the first promos that came out, or the one promo that's come out, had was started, was released early in the production run, and it had Burnham with the Discovery crew. Already.
Well, it also had her in isolation with her radically changing hairstyles over a long period of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
The
your
montage.
dreads. So awesome.
Yes.
I've
So
always
first
been
look-
I've always been a fan of Burnham's hair, and even more than I was a fan of Janeway's hair as it morphed over the course of 7 years.
If-
Some of which were pretty bad.
Yeah,
but-
that original bun was horrendous.
If I remember correctly, Star Trek Online gave us the Burnham dreads.
Yes, they did.
First,
No, they modeled it after the trailer.
Thought it was,
Oh,
I
I
thought,
see.
I
In
thought
the
it-
anniversary episode, you meet a recreation of Michael Burnham by the Excalibans. And then when they put you through a scenario, you go through the whole Red Angel recapture thing again from a Stowe perspective. But instead of Burnham's mother showing up, it's future Dreadlock Burnham.
I thought that
As
Anis,
the Red Angel.
I thought that Anis Abdin, he's the one that created the look for Burnham. Am I confused?
don't you know that all African American space people
Wait.
in
Don't
purple
get us
look
in
the
trouble.
same?
Whoa,
Don't get us in trouble, Carlos.
Whoa.
I'm being
Whoa,
sarcastic.
No, red alert, red alert, red alert. No, bad topic. Bad
White
topic.
guy's going to shut up now.
Okay, so all right, so I think we've exhausted that topic. We'll move on to the next one, which I've been kind of interested in having a little chat about, and that is our own Travis Linton's list of the 30 top protagonists in Star Trek, and it's a bit of a controversial list, which we will post. But let me bring it up on the screen here. I am obviously we're not going to have time to go through every single one you have listed.
Yeah.
But there
It
are
is
certainly
perfect.
there are certainly
Perfect.
some that are controversial, and I'd love to hear, number one, Travis, kind of what your general criteria were in selecting them and the order in which you place them, and then also what kind of controversy you sparked in the Star Trek Facebook group, the one that you're one of the admins for, the largest on Facebook, and how was your list received? And then I want to hear from everybody else around here about what they were surprised about on the list and what they agreed with the most and disagreed with the most. So let's start with you, Travis. You get to have your say right now.
Well, when it came to putting the list together, a lot like getting candidates mainly was just like thinking of characters that really stood out to me in all the best ways. And I hope that the list that is seen here is reverse numbered. Let's get that right away. I did not rank Hikaru Sulu as the best Star Trek character of all time.
Right. The best one is
so
actually way
basically,
down at the bottom, which is Mr.
yes,
Spock.
because Trello is weird when it came to numbering these things. Very much like when it came to ranking these people, it just came to like where they start in their journey and where they end up, which is why I'm kind of hard on some of the more classic characters and a bit more like
That explains why Kirk is number 27.
27. And nobody,
Leonard
not
McCoy,
too many
number
people are
9.
happy on that
Or,
one.
yeah.
I know a lot of people here aren't happy with me on that one, and I will say I don't care.
That's fine. That's fine.
Like,
But
I
then again,
love-
this is the top 30. It's not like, I mean, that's, we're going into 800 episodes of Star Trek here. So that's the top 30. Even at number 27, you're in good company, I'd say, right?
yeah,
I
I
mean, that's-
mean, like,
Well,
in main
but folks, he
character-
puts Phlox ahead of Kirk. I mean,
What?
come on.
What do you-
Oh, that
He
pissed some
put
people off
Elnor,
like
who was
that.
in like 5 episodes or 6 episodes ahead of Kirk.
I can't disagree
Well,
with that.
I
Elnor's
yeah,
a cutie.
like,
Kirk, not so
I'm
much.
pretty sure- I'm pretty happy with the explanation that I gave for Eleanor, and people who are just like, "Oh, he's just a space elf," or
Space.
I think it was a gutsy move on your part, Travis, to make
Good list, man.
Eleanor
I'm
number.
sticking to it. Like let's put it this way: if I had posted this list in 2017 after the entirety, or was it? I'll say 2018 after the entirety of the first season of Discovery had dropped, I probably would have listed Saru at a very similar position, and that's mainly because like I had a really good feeling about Saru going forward, and I also believe that I have a similar feeling about that for Eleanor. I have a really good feeling that he's going to get some really good development going forward, and if I am wrong, I will eat my words and I will say, you know what, I was wrong about Eleanor. The character sucks, but I mean, like right now I'm just not getting that. I like what's that?
Go ahead. I'll state my piece when it's my turn.
I like what he symbolizes in the show. I like what he brought to the table as far as our very first Romulan protagonist. And like I said in the thing, I just like how out of that entire crew, he very much brought forward the best of Starfleet, ironically. And yeah, other controversial...
Give us just two more, then we'll go around robin.
Controversial picks. I'll go ahead and say that Kira Nerys got some mixed reception from some people. A lot of people were very much happy with her placement as far and what I had to say about her. But I had some people saying like, "Oh, her faith annoyed me," or like people who were just like, "Oh, well, Janeway should be there" and whatnot. And I'm just like, I hold to my guts that Kira Nerys is the most underrated Star Trek character of DS9, and a lot of people weren't too happy that some other DS9 characters didn't make this list. But I'll be blunt right now: like I probably could have fit the entire main cast of DS9 on this list, but then I would probably be showing a little bit of bias there because, as I've said before,
you only had 30 slots, right?
I only had 30 slots, and I will say that DS9 is the show that handles its entire character ensemble the absolute best of the entirety of Star Trek. I mean, there's a reason why I will say that we love to hate Brunt. We love to hate Dukat. I mean, every character on this show is just handled wonderfully. I can't think of one that disappoints, really, in this area. And even if characters have their disappointing episodes, like it's not like it breaks the character. Like as bad
Keiko
as
O'Brien.
They broke Q.
Keiko O'Brien.
Keiko
I was
O'Brien.
okay with them breaking Q.
Nah!
Oh yeah, Keiko O'Brien.
O'Brien.
Yeah, Sean is right about that. Keiko O'Brien.
They ruined
O'Brien.
her.
I don't know. I mean, like just
They turned her into
a
this
cranky
shrew.
Yeah.
She had an excellent moment
I'm sorry,
when
Karen
she was facing
O'Brien.
off against Kai Wynn.
Oh yeah, I remember that episode. That was a good one, Ross.
Yeah.
Good point.
And
Good
that
point.
was that was the last
It's
good
also the
episode.
moment
She
that
was
you learned
still
to hate
unlikable.
To hate Kai Wynn, that is, not Keiko. I loved her in that moment because she stood up for her ideals and her beliefs while Kai Wynn was blatantly trying to capitalize on...
But here's my
Like
question
bullshit.
about that. And I know we're going to get off on a tangent here, but why
A short one.
why
Go
was
ahead.
it wrong for the Bajorans to expect Keiko to teach the historical context of the prophets in a religious as being religious in
But
nature?
It
She
was
did.
their space station.
But here's the
Exactly.
thing, Keiko acknowledged that the Bajoran people revere the wormhole beings as gods. She didn't dispute that. She didn't say that it was wrong for them to do so. However, the conflict was that Kai Wynn wanted her to teach the specific teachings of the Bajoran religion in her school.
Hey, that's what happens when you go to a Catholic school, buddy.
I know. I went to a Catholic school.
Oh
So
boy,
did
that
I.
explains so much. That explains
The
so
episode-
much.
the
Okay,
That was the
Travis,
core
your
of
last,
that conflict.
your
You know
last-
what you're signing up for. That's all I'm saying. Keiko,
Okay.
Karen.
Travis,
Yeah.
one more character, and then we're going to go round robin.
Yeah. Well,
Is there another one
I'll
that
just go ahead and quickly say it. I guess I'll go ahead and give my hot take on Kirk. On why he ranks so low is because
27 out
just
of
out of
30, dude.
27, people were not happy. They were very much up in arms. Like, I guess, like, people, I mean, I understand.
Jason is up in arms. Look at him.
I can't see him because we're, oh, look, there he is.
Put it back up.
Up in arms, and like, I love Kirk. Kirk was very much, as I said in the thing, he's the captain you fantasize about, being as a kid. I mean, like, I will be completely honest. Like, when I was in elementary school and Dad started buying the original series DVDs and I started getting into Star Trek, I fantasized about being in a school play portraying Captain Kirk. Full disclosure, like,
I think we've all been there.
Exactly, and I mean,
In
like,
elementary school.
Yes, elementary school of all things, and
I wanted to be
just
Riker.
like, I love him. Like, Kirk
You look like Riker.
Kirk is a great character. I mean, like, he's on the list for a reason. But I mean, if we're looking at him as far as development and his start of his journey,
Yeah, it sounds like one of your key criteria was a character journey. Did I just miss a good one from Ross?
Ross literally just spun his chair around and sat down.
I pulled the Riker maneuver, or tried to.
Oh.
This thing has a very high back.
I
Did
see.
you pull something there, Ross?
No, I'm fine.
But
That
was
was
just
like,
awkward.
Okay, go ahead and wrap up, Travis, and then we're gonna.
there are just one
go
too many episodes with Kirk that just revolve around him pulling the solution out of his ass. There's an episode which I actually personally love. I believe it's called "This Side of Paradise," and it's where these spores, they in what's the word? Incubate the crew. They take over the crew and they all get very, like, passive and very like, oh, this is paradise. Let's just abandon all our worries and live here forever and ever. Amen. And Kirk towards the very end also gets exposed to the spores and he starts to, like, oh, I'm one with you now, that kind of thing. And out of nowhere, he just rages and he's like, this is how you fight them. You got to have the
rage.
You gotta get mad.
face and just it's an asshole. He pulls the solution out of his ass. He really just doesn't develop as a character until the films, and he has some great development there. But even then, he's just kind of just a generic character for me. He's the guy when it comes to kicking ass and taking names and space cowboy diplomacy, but I mean, just as far as like in character depth and getting an inner look at his psyche and just how he feels and acts as a character, he just falls short when compared
Okay,
to so many of
let's
these.
move to what the rest of the crew thinks. Our
Do it.
stalwart producer, Justin, what do you think of the list? Who do you really agree with? Who do you disagree with the most?
I'm going to reserve comment.
You're going to reserve
I'm going
comment?
to reserve comment.
You realize this is a show where its whole point is commentary, right?
Oh, I know, but I'm just going to reserve comment on this one. Yep.
Okay, your choice. Then we're going to move over to Sun Seal. What do you think, Sun? Overall, and then what you agree with the most and disagree with the most.
Overall, I honestly, I'm pretty okay with this list. Like even
What do you think of that, Travis? Sun
Even-
likes your list.
Holy cow.
Even Kirk being as low as he is on the list, I'm okay with.
Okay.
Cheers.
Any part of this list give you a wrinkle at all? You pretty much just like it as is? Okay.
I honestly, when I look at the list, I honestly think Fox should be a little bit higher because
I love
a lot of
Did you say
those
flocks?
Yes, Phlox. Because of all of the characters in Enterprise, Phlox was pretty much the one, was as much as everybody focused on T'Pol being the alien, Phlox was the alien of Enterprise. He didn't understand a
He
whole
was
bunch
also
of,
the Neelix of Enterprise.
he didn't understand a bunch of
No.
he didn't understand a bunch of Earth's culture, but he was willing to throw himself into it and was confused when stuff didn't go like the way he was. But it also meant that all of that character development that he had came out of the conflict between him and the rest of the Earth crew, like him telling Archer, these people literally are going extinct. They have to die. There's no other way to save them, and you're just fucking with nature at this point.
Mhm.
Like, that's character development.
Okay. I think you make a good case. All right, let's move over to you, Sean P. O'Halloran.
The entire list 1 through 30 should be Garrick. That's all I'm saying.
Say that again.
The entire list 1 through 30 should be Garrick. That's all I'm saying. That's where I stand.
Garrett's on there, right? Where I thought
Number
I saw him on
4.
there.
He's number 4.
Number
Oh
4.
yeah, there he is. Yeah, no,
Oh, there
four's
he
a
is.
pretty good place for him, I think. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But is he a protagonist?
There.
Or is he really an antagonist?
See, that's the trick with him, isn't it?
All right. Actually, I can offer
some.
some insight here. I had a lot of people asking me if Q would make the list. And the reason why Q didn't make the list is because I do consider him an antagonist. And while he's not like a villain, like out to destroy the crew whenever he's around, he usually does present an obstacle for the main crew
Correct.
to overcome, which
But usually
them a
always results in them growing.
Can I ask you a question, Travis? Did
What's
you
up?
consider Damar at any point? I'm curious.
yes,
Damar,
DeMar,
Um,
he had an excellent arc in the 7th season.
Golden Cot.
yeah.
Here's the thing about Ducat. My biggest problem with Ducat is Ducat was a perfect villain for the first 6 seasons.
Yep.
And they fucked him up entirely in season
Yep.
7.
Yeah,
They
Yep.
turned him into a mustache twirler, and I
Yep.
hated it.
Yep.
Yep.
Totally agree with you. Great for 6 seasons, terrible in the 7th.
When did he leave
Unless
the
that was his character. There's a lore reloaded video for that. I think you guys would enjoy.
When was he?
Yeah.
When was he? When did they go back to Empok Nor with him? Was that season 7?
That was
With-
season
No,
with
that was
Ducat-
like-
Ducat didn't,
Yeah.
they didn't go to Empok nor with Ducat.
Yeah,
Are you
they
talking
did.
about
Yeah.
when he went to Empok Nor? That's
Yeah.
season 7. When he
Yeah, he
becomes
was-
a
that
cult
was-
leader.
That was really
Power
good.
Wraith?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's a pretty good episode. But the problem is that every episode beyond that, he was just a mustache. He was just an evil villain.
He went blind for a point and had to be a beggar for a while.
Right, and he still wound up at the end. I was just fucking with you. I don't give a shit. I'm just here for the power. It's the power.
Well,
But he
they
pushed-
chose him over Kai Wynn.
But he redeemed Kai. But Kai Wynn, it was through him that Kai Wynn found redemption in the end. Which was
I'm
kind
not
of
a
cool.
fan of that.
Like I
Barely.
said, DS9 knew both characters for the most part.
Yeah. No, Kai Wynn was, I think, one of the best Star Trek villains ever.
Mhm.
Understated, but man, she was mean.
Incredibly complex. In fact, I kind of look at her as like the inverse of Ducat when you think of it in a lot of ways.
Well,
but-
and I think that was intentional too.
They were
Yeah,
both
and-
the heroes of their own story.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
and to be fair, for Kai Wynn's story, during the occupation, she was literally a hero, and it's only when she started getting power and that's at the point we see her where she's already got some power that it just it corrupts and it corrupts.
And that's what makes her the most despicable to me, because she's manipulating faith for her
And
own
by the way,
ends.
I'm going to say this right now. Before she leaves this mortal coil, I must meet Louise Fletcher because I fucking loved her so much. She was so hateable. I mean, look, it takes chops to make yourself to do that good of a job where your audience absolutely fucking hates you. I mean, she was amazing.
Can't keep their eyes off of you.
At the same time, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yep.
indeed.
But anyway, to answer your question on Damar, he will be on the other list most likely.
What's the other list?
Yes, I love his redemption arc, and I think it's one of the best plot points of DS9. But I mean, it's the final season, and he spends like 3 seasons beforehand being an antagonist. So it's just a matter of like.
I think you make a good. I think you.
He's
He's
not
a
even
henchman, not so,
Yeah,
not so
he's,
much of an
he's
antagonist.
basically a sidekick.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, right. How quickly that really changed, and it was done very well.
Like on 1 episode, well, 2 episodes.
But he killed Tora Zayao.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah, right.
and I supported that.
You are a horrible human being, Sean.
I really am.
It was a
I
He traded her to the
man.
state.
It was a
She was
bad
a traitor to the
I-
state.
Here's the thing. I completely support the death of Ziel as well.
Thank you.
Well, it was narratively necessary.
No,
sure.
no.
It was a bad
Because
character.
it literally kills this weird ass fucking romance between her and Garrick.
Well, that's a
Literally.
Well, that's true. That was
You've got
ill advised.
completely different reasons. She was a traitor to the state. That's why I think that Tamara was absolutely correct.
Whereas I think it was horrible. She was a beard.
A beard.
She was a beard.
She was helping.
That's a gay term.
Yeah.
It means she was literally hiding Garrick's gayness because
Right, exactly.
Why?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's
I got
a
that.
technical term.
It's
It's an industry term.
She
a term
was-
in the
she
gay
was-
industry.
So in terms of The Office, she was the Angela to the senator. Okay. So there you go.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Mr. Ross Bullock. What do you think of this list?
Okay,
Which
Travis.
do you most agree with, and which do you least agree with?
Well, I don't really have any strong feelings about anyone on this list. It's kind of hard to have feelings for something that is essentially
neutral.
someone's opinion.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm asking for points of agreement. and
That's the Star
disagreement.
Trek fans.
Well, I'm more Travis. I have a question for you. Were you just looking at Prime, or were you looking at Kelvin for this as well?
As far as Kelvin was concerned, I did mention Kelvin counterparts in Leonard McCoy, Kirk, and Spock's entries. I really wanted to include movie characters like Jayla. It was just a matter of Jayla has one film compared to these characters that have like dozens and dozens of episodes. So it's just a matter of like, I just couldn't fit her. I love Jayla. I love the Kelvin timeline movies. I will defend those to my grave. And
Same.
I actually a lot of the Kelvin events in Spock's entry, believe it or not. And why I believe that really pushed him to the top was with just how those events shaped his life. But I mean, it was just a matter of like quantity with some of these things as much. When we get to the antagonists, so I'll probably be a bit more leeway since a lot of antagonists are kind of one-offs and it's just a matter of the impact that they have in their 1 hour of fame or whatever it is.
Now, if for some reason Khan lands on this list, are you going to rank Cumberbox Khan different than you would Monobons?
This is where you're supposed to plead.
I
Spoilers, Travis.
If I had-
Spoilers.
spoilers. If I do talk about Khan, I'm pretty sure people know he'll be on the list. Khan, I will, when it comes to that can of worms, I will probably mention the IDW comics. I have been a firm supporter of IDW's take to the Kelvin universe, and they do explain the John Benedict the appearance.
Yep.
If you want to call it just like satisfactory or not, that's entirely up to you. I personally kind of like what they did with it. It makes sense narratively. I mean, even if it is like, I can't say I support the cast and call. Benedict's a great actor. He would have been far better as just John Harrison.
John Harrison, yeah.
Harrison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Harrison.
But yeah, I mean, like when it comes to giving him like saying he is Khan, I can certainly understand and sympathize with some criticism there, but that's just a
We'll
can of
save
worms.
that for the next list.
Yeah. I
Anything
will
else,
say
Ross?
I would have ranked Pike higher. I would have ranked him in the top 10.
I
but-
really wanted to.
Especially when you include if for me his performance in the cage, with his fate in the menagerie, combined with how we see him in both Kelvin and Discovery, that
Yeah.
really rockets him up to the top, in my opinion.
I love his Kelvin. Like, I actually mentioned that in his entry as well. Like, Kelvin Pike is what really got me into the character, to the point where when I saw him in the cage, I was like, holy shit, this character sucks. I mentioned in that description was that Pike is very much the most interesting in terms of like how he's come about as a character in my eyes, because this guy has gone from like, ooh, this is a cool character. Oh my God, I hate this character. Oh my God, I love this character. You know, just he's on this roller coaster of love, hate, and I cannot see where his show takes him.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Who have we not heard from yet? Jason, we've heard from you, right?
No.
I don't think we've heard from
Oh,
Jason.
good. Then, Jason, leap in.
All right. So I think there's a lot of really good here. I think, Spock, Picard, Kira, I mean, I think, I don't have any qualms with those being in the top 3. There are a few here that I probably wouldn't make the list for me. Paris being one.
I can understand that one.
I have a hard time. I understand why people like the Doctor, but he wouldn't be in the top 10 for me. The Doctor would be much lower. He was probably one of the most redeeming characters on Voyager, so that might tell you how high I regard Voyager.
Especially when Seven shows up and they interplay off each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's the last, I'm going to have to say it. I don't see how you don't have Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in the top 10. And I know that, you have your reasons, but they fill out the archetype that created Star Trek. If it weren't for those 3, we wouldn't be here talking about it tonight. Like, those characters were the most beloved characters of the 60s. They were among the most beloved characters. There aren't many franchises that are brought back to life after being dead for a decade, and I count that to the portrayal of William Shatner as James Kirk and DeForest Kelley as McCoy and Leonard Nimoy as Spock, and I just can't see how you have this list and not have the 3 of them at the top. Other than that, I think everything here seems, kind of where I wouldn't have Phlox on this list. I'd probably have Shran higher.
Block. Who's higher?
Shran. I would agree with that.
I like Shran.
I'd have him higher. I'd have Quark a lot higher, honestly. And I'd probably have Jadzia on here, or Dax.
Jadzia was a tough cut, let's put it that way. She and Bashir, like I said, I can't emphasize it enough. DS9 really knew how to do their characters, and it killed me not including some of the characters from that show.
Yeah, I mean, I could see not including Bashir, but Dax was kind of groundbreaking in a lot of different ways, both just from a portrayal and just the uniqueness of her character stories, involving her previous hosts, and then seeing the character then have to adapt with Jadzia being killed, and with Ezri, and it wasn't just Jadzia 2.0. It was truly a whole new character.
I guess one of the things that maybe it may have kept Jadzia just barely missing the cut was after watching the documentary What We Left Behind. I know that a lot of people associate Jadzia Dax with a character representing the rights of trans people, and giving some representation there, and I think that's fantastic. I think it's just one of those, like, when I first watched DS9, it never really occurred to me that that might be what she went with. And when I heard Ira Stephen Bear say, like, we could have handled her better in that area, it was just one of those, like, you know, a tough cut there, but I kind of agree with him. And so yeah, like, I love Jadzia. I'm not going to belittle her character at all. I guess it was just a way of handling that that kind of held her back for me.
See, that's weird, because watching that portion of the documentary, I never felt that way about Jadzia, or about the Dax character at all. And hello, trans person. So, like, that's one of those weird things where it's like, I literally see more of a trans analogy in this episode of TNG than I do out of Jadzia Dax. Where are all these people that saw the Dax character as a trans thing? Because I sure as hell didn't.
No, that's a good question, and I'm not sure I probably ever viewed them
I
that
think
way
it
either.
has to
But
do
it
with
was
the fact that the character changes genders throughout its lifespan.
The Dax does,
Yeah.
but Jadzia was biologically female, and she identified as female. You know, and who says that we have see so little in the symbiote, the Trill symbiote culture, right? The symbiotes themselves, that we don't know if they even have genders. I mean, they could just be, agender.
Parthenogenesis.
maybe we'll find out more in season 3 of Discovery, since we know we're going to
Maybe.
be visiting the Trill homeworld in season 3. Okay, so I'm going to go quick, and then we can move on to our next topic. But okay, first thing to start off with, what I see is the really interesting and glaring omission. I'm sure someone's already called you out on this, but I'd love to hear what you think real quick, Travis. Why no Michael Burnham?
Michael Burnham. Like, I love her character a lot. I think the main reason I kept her off initially was because, one, I just think other Discovery characters have much better development and better likability, and I love Michael Burnham as a lead, and I hope she only gets better, because I believe that one day she will find herself on this list. But right as it stands right now, I do find a lot of her development kind of forced, and she has been also kind of been on this roller coaster of a like-dislike for me. When she first came on the show, I wasn't sure I was going to get fully behind her. She redeemed herself. She was great in season 2, but towards the end, particularly with Spock, the very last moment that they share with each other, where he's stuck on the shuttle and she's giving him this like emotional, like, you're gonna find somebody. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but I did find it very forced and very much like, okay, I get it, what they're trying to do, but it's just not coming across well. I'm very curious to see what season 3 has in store for her, because I expect nothing but greatness with this new era and new story that they're going to be telling. I have just like I said.
Okay, fair enough. I think it's still a glaring omission, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick thing. I agreed with a lot of what Jason said, but the Kirk Spock McCoy thing, I think the reason I sort of side with how you chose to deal with that, Travis, as opposed to what Jason is proposing, is that they are characters from a very specific era in television, and it was an era in which characters didn't really develop. They were beloved because they were like these characters etched in stone that other than, being some flourishes added here and there, were basically the same at the end as they were at the beginning. And I think under the criteria,
Zorro.
yeah, I mean, no, yeah, I think you're right. And that's why I think the older he gets and the older William Shatner gets, the less I am compelled by him. But as a elementary school student, I'm right with you, Travis. I wanted to be Kirk, so I get that. But I think, as I've gotten older and I've seen the character age. I feel like the other TOS characters around him in some ways had better journeys than he did. But he's seminal, obviously, in the thing, so he should be on this list. I don't think I'd put him as high as Jason suggests, but he definitely deserves to be on the list. I also agree Tom Paris should not be on this list. There's a couple others. I love Garrick, but he's not a major enough character to deserve to be in the top 5. I mean, I love him. Don't get me wrong. I love Garrick. I just don't. He's a fairly small, character.
I suggested naming Harrison Garrick before he was
You suggested who?
naming Harrison Garrick before he was born. Needless to say, that suggestion was not met positively.
He wanted to name his son Elam Garrick.
Fucking A, I did.
Oh my God, your wife, I assume, had the good sense to
Clearly.
dissuade you from that.
Clearly.
Caroline is a very smart woman.
O'Halloran. How would that have worked
I
out?
probably would have moved Cisco into the top 10. I think he's a strong enough character. He has definitely his 7-season arc is a big one. I think that this is not a personal slam on you, Travis, but I think that from a diversity perspective, he more than earns his slot in the top 10.
Oh yeah, I definitely would like. I can definitely see where you're coming from there, and I will accept that criticism because
It's just an observation. It's not a criticism. I mean, it's your list, your opinion. You're entitled to it. So I'm not. That's why I'm trying to say it's not like
I will.
you're
go ahead
wrong.
and say
It's
that
just a thing I'm pointing out.
the top 15 of these characters were incredibly difficult to place at times. Like I was like really asking myself, like, is Data really only number 10 at times? Especially when
I
was
also wouldn't
writing
put
him.
Nog in the top 10, even though again I love Nog. I love Nog, but he's just not a big enough character to be. He deserves to be on the list. I agree, just not in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Carlos. I love Nog. Nog is probably, I think, one of my favorite Star Trek characters of all time.
Mine too.
But if we're gonna say the top 30, if we're gonna, I mean, when I see top lists, I tend to think people are trying to be objective about it, and I think you're right. I think he just doesn't have enough story. We don't see enough of his story to rank it in the top 10.
How do we not have enough of Nog's story to the mischief maker who is a typical Ferengi helping other people steal supplies, to the he befriends a human and can't read and the human helps him learn to read, to the point that he admires the human friend's father so much he enters Starfleet on his own using what he thinks of as Ferengi.
You're right.
No, I
Now
totally
you thought it
agree with
through.
you. He deserves to be on this list. I don't think the story, as compelling that it is in the top 10. I just don't think it's there. But it is. It's an emotional and wonderful journey over the course of 7 years, for sure.
If not,
I wept in that scene where he went into Cisco and demanded, that he should get into Starfleet Academy.
And then again, in what's his name's bar, crying over his loss.
Oh, you're
Vic
talking
Fontaine.
about
Vic Fontaine.
Paper Moon.
Yeah.
Aaron Heisenberg actually left me a comment on that episode. So thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for putting Philippa Giorgio on there.
Which one?
My last two. Well, that was one of my two questions I'm going to ask. When you say Philippa Giorgio, how are you balancing the two Philippa Giorgios? Number one, and number two, when it comes to Jean-Luc Picard, if there had been no Picard series, would you still put him at number 2?
Probably not. I'll be completely honest
either.
with you. When it comes to Picard as a character, I mean, he'd probably be at least in the top 5 right off the bat, mainly because of his iconic stature. Patrick Stewart's portrayal is fantastic, but I mean, very like the other classic characters, he did in Next Generation, he did fall in that static development shell, and just like he wasn't very compelling until the later seasons of the Next Generation. I even went on to say that in those early seasons, he didn't have much of a character outside delivering monologues that were just preachy. Like, I'm not saying they were bad monologues. They resulted in a lot of his best quotes. But I mean, when I was picking out quotes that best highlight the characters themselves, Picard has a very difficult quote selection to choose from, because as much as I like hearing him say, like, it's impossible to commit no mistakes in life and still lose, or however that quote goes, that's just like, that's not a Picard quote. That's a Data quote. What's a quote that like describes Picard? And I found a couple, but I mean, out of like the hundreds there are, it just wasn't, very, it was a difficult one. As far as Philippa Georgiou is concerned, it's the mirror universe, Philippa Georgiou, and that was another controversy, but one I very much relish in. I love Prime Georgiou, but we saw her for 2 episodes. Let's just be honest there.
Okay, well, that's good enough for me. Thank you for putting up to with the Inquisition here, Travis. I think it was a gutsy list to put together. So thanks for that.
Well,
Okay, let's move on. I'm going to skip a couple of topics and go to some of the CW topics for this week, because they're follow-ups from last week and before. And one of those is the news. Well, we found the news last week that Ruby Rose was leaving Batwoman, the show, and then we found out subsequently that they said right away that they're going to recast the lead, but we didn't find out until this past week that they're not recasting the character. They're actually coming up with a brand new character that they're going to cast. Good idea, bad idea? What do you think?
That's definitely a bad idea.
The only way
You're giving a brand new character access to all of Batman's equipment. Why?
I mean, the only way it's going to work is if they give Kate Kane a proper closeout. That's the only way it's going to work. If not, it's just going to be weird. It just ain't going to work.
Listen, you're awfully quiet.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, it's in your mouth now, so yes.
It's not going to work if they don't at least close out Kate Kane's character. They just can't have her disappear and be replaced by someone all of a sudden. That's not going to make no sense. It's just, yeah, I hope they actually close her character out. And
I don't know that they're going to be able to do that with her anyway, unless they somehow entice her to come back. But it sounds like she's out the door. But we'll see. I mean, who knows? It's Hollywood. Anything can happen.
yeah,
Wouldn't it be great if the whole first season she was actually the fake cousin or whatever, and in the beginning of the new season is Kate Kane is literally getting arrested?
I'm looking for it now, but I'm pretty sure there has been more than one Batwoman besides Kate Kane.
well, yeah,
There has.
yeah.
So if there's precedence, I mean,
well, sort of. I mean, Kate Kane was the first one. There wasn't actually. I mean, obviously, there's been Batgirl. There was a Huntress. I'm not sure there was another Batwoman. Am I
during
wrong
the
there?
Cataclysm event when Gotham City was rocked with a catastrophic earthquake and excised from the United States, I remember there was a Batwoman that showed up, but it wasn't Kate Kane, at least either Batwoman or Batgirl. I'm not sure. That's what I'm trying to find right now.
They should just have Barry Allen go back in time, and when he comes back forward through time, it's just a different actress playing Kate Kane. That's what they should do.
See, I enjoy that. That would work for me.
That would work for you.
The first time I saw Batwoman, the first time I saw her playing this girl, I did not like it from the get-go. She was just so arrogant, and I hated it.
And the thing is, we've had 4 different Kal-Els in the Arrowverse now, in the Berlantiverse. We've had Tyler Hoechlin play Kal-El.
Mhm.
We've seen Tom Welling Kal-El. We've seen Brandon Routh Kal-El, and
Although that's not technically Berlantiverse, but
I mean we've seen other iterations of Superman of Kal-El basically, and they were all brought.
but they're
into
all Kal-El. I mean, the question
Right.
here is, are they all Kate Kane?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think their easy way to fix this is to have Barry run back in time, come back forward in time, and it's just a different actress playing Kate Kane.
You think that's what's going to happen? I don't.
I don't think this is going to happen, but I think that's the problem. In my opinion, it's the best way to handle it.
Well,
But
I think it's a convenient way to handle it. I'm just not sure it would fly any better than. I mean, it's awkward no matter what. I'm not sure it ends up.
Well, they could do another crossover event.
just to replace Ruby Rose.
Just to replace Ruby Rose.
Why not? I mean, it's got to make sense, because if they just throw another actor in there, it's just not going to make sense.
My God, nothing in this fucking universe makes sense. You just go with it. Come on,
Yeah.
let's be real here.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the universe that has Bebo. Let's be real.
it'd be like if we were watching Star Trek and let's say it's Voyager, and all of a sudden we have another Janeway after having Kate Mulgrew for the first 3 seasons.
Or I don't know, maybe another Savick after one movie. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's happened.
It's
Okay.
Kirstie Alley
like-
was the best one. Let's be honest.
yes.
Looks like I was wrong there. Kate Kane is the one and only Batwoman, so
Yeah,
this
I
is
thought
going to
so.
be a very big departure for them.
Oh my, yeah, just
They'll figure it out.
does
That's what
anybody
they pay him
remember-
for.
Does anybody remember Aunt Viv changing?
Yes.
Let's see. Screen Rant is speculating Harper Row, the Bluebird, could replace her. Also, Holly Robinson, a former Catwoman, and that's it.
Which Catwoman was she?
If Shining Time Station can
yeah,
change.
really. When was
from
Holly
this,
Robinson a Catwoman?
It said the second
I'm sure these
Catwoman.
guys-
I don't know. It was this weird Instagram like slideshow thing. It was mostly pictures of Ruby Rose as Kate Kane. I really like the
original
original Kate Kane. I'm really disappointed that they aren't just going to recast her and keep the character going. It sounds
Well,
like Ruby
and
Rose wasn't
the-
really into it anyway.
The dynamic between her and Supergirl, I thought, was something that they could really build on. And so it's a shame. I mean, I hope they don't lose that, but it's going to be weird just, replacing her.
Now, what might be interesting is if they introduce a Barbara Gordon and then take her from being Batgirl to Batwoman.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I read somewhere, and I haven't confirmed this, if this is actually the case or if this is speculation, but they already have a character sketched out for this to become the next Batwoman. And it's not a Barbara Gordon. It's some other person.
I'm really disappointed. I really like the character of Kate Kane. I really like her story. The fact that she's former Army, was out because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and then eventually found her way into the role on her own. It was really compelling.
That part was good.
And really compelling for me,
and
but-
it's basically related to Bruce Wayne.
Distantly.
Well, still.
Still, I really liked the character. I resonated with the character. I could relate with her on a level because we're both veterans. But we'll see.
Are
what
you
they
guys
do.
are you guys enough of CW Berlantiverse fans to want to devote a future episode, not the whole thing, but a chunk of a future episode to talk about kind of the state of that universe, because they're Legends is losing a bunch of their characters this season.
I'd have to catch up. I'm behind, but
Yeah.
I could devote an episode.
the Legends is about to really change after this season because they're going through a whole new reformat.
But they've been supposed to do that, right? I mean, that was the whole point of Legends, was that like it would just be kind of like this like show
Revolving door.
Yeah.
revolving door of different characters. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, they're really going all out after this season. Like a bunch of their mains leaving.
This podcast started talking about the Flash and the Arrow, so I think doing an episode talking about the state of the Berlantiverse might be fun.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have seen, the end of Arrow as we've known it. And Flash. I don't know what's going on with the Flash. Anyway, it's worth talking about. So if enough of you are
loop, he keeps doing the same thing over and over
Well,
again.
it would be good. The Flash is a show that could stand for some episodic periods, for a short, sustained episodic period. That's one of the things I liked about the earlier seasons is they took a lot more time getting to the big bad, and you had it had a more of an episodic feel with kind of a growing threat, and it just seems in later seasons, the big bad is revealed really early, and and instead of like going off and searching for metahumans and trying to get them to control their powers, now it just seems it's all like one big long story.
Or you have two big bads, and you have one that's a smaller big bad that's revealed later on, and then you have the overall arcing big bad that you got to figure out. Yeah, it's same old.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic sort of comic dilemma. Comics dilemma is how do you keep these characters interesting over a really, really long haul.
The Flash has enough stable of rogues to be able to do that.
The problem
I think so.
comes
I'm not
with
disagreeing with you.
constantly trying to one up their villains. They keep ratcheting up the stakes.
The Dragon Ball Z dilemma.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, do not get me
And-
started. I have a rant. I have a long prepared.
Well, we'll
practice
save that for that
rant.
CW
Who's all
thing.
excited for-
That tangent will be yours.
Who's all excited for Superman and Lois getting ready to come up? Anyone going to be watching that one?
I'm actually looking forward to that too because I think that could breathe some new life into that universe.
Lois and Clark Part 2.
Yes, at least that's the hope. And apparently they're supposed to have two kids, I guess, if they go by what happened at the end of Crisis.
Could have had Dean Cain as Superman 2 in that. Why didn't they?
Dean Cain, oh man. Okay, let's move to our next CW topic, and that is, a bunch of us have been hooked so far by Stargirl. I have to admit that when I first learned about Stargirl, I was not that interested, but then I actually watched it, and I love the callback to the Justice Society, and they keep calling back to the Justice Society in every single episode so far. They're 3 in, which is intriguing to me. I'm a longtime Justice Society fan, and I like how they maintain humor, but also have some really serious. The villains are fantastic. I'm enjoying it. Who else is liking what they see, and are you also looking forward to some kind of Justice Society rebirth? Anybody?
Yeah,
I'm an episode behind, so I just watched the Stripe, and I'm liking what I see so far. I'm still kind of disappointed that I'm not seeing the Earth 2 vibe from the show, but overall, I like that she's made her own costume. I like that she's getting out there, that she's fighting these villains, that these villains are a threat, that there is something very scary about these characters with very silly names.
They have very silly names, but Jesus Christ, they're powerful.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, Brainwave should be able to basically kill everybody. And Icicle is.
But more than that, these the way that they're introducing these characters, when we see Brainwave for the first time in the current era, he's a father.
Yeah, a doctor.
A doctor and a disciplinarian. His son is very disciplined to him, at least, but then takes out his frustration on everybody else. But the fact that these characters, they're real.
Yeah.
He wasn't just some mustache-twirling bad guy in an ivory tower looking out over Dominion.
They're the leader of Blue Valley, Nebraska.
Yeah, he's a person living life, but working towards some sinister end goal. And then we're slowly being introduced to the rest of the Injustice Society as they're also existing in this small Midwest town. So I'm
Which
I'm
they're
really
going
enjoying
to
how it's
explain. I mean, they're
unfolding.
starting to explain.
Yeah.
As
I
you
do
go
want to
deeper into
interrupt
it.
right quick and,
Yeah.
and reiterate, like I did last week. At least I hope I did. God, I hope I did. When you say that, Ross, what you mean is the feel of Earth 2, not Earth 2 vibe, because that's a character.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
vibe, right? Yes.
I'm
Good
not
point.
when I watch Stargirl, I don't see Earth 2. I
Except
see
it's
what
not
might
set
as
on
well
Earth
be
2.
Earth 1.
This is post-crisis. There is no more Earth 2. There's only
I thought there
Earth.
was an Earth 2.
No,
Mm-mm.
there's
There
all-
was
all
pre-crisis, and the pre-crisis Earth 2 was slightly more kind of advanced and had slightly different kinds of technology and stuff too, which was
different
true
colors.
back in the comics as well. The idea being that Earth 2 was about 20 years ahead of what was going on Earth 1.
I'm not talking about technology. I'm talking about
But that's
the
what you
little
saw.
details.
You saw a different vibe because of that, and technology was part
He
of that.
just wants to
vibe.
see
I'm not
airships
talking
flying
about
in
the
the background.
technology.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm talking about things like differences of perspective. Instead of having screens that are mainly horizontal, screens that are vertical. Little details that tell
Color
you, hey,
palettes.
Sure,
this
except
is
that
a
world doesn't
different
exist
kind
anymore.
of Earth. Yeah,
It-
that's what I get. That's what I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
But I'm still disappointed that I don't see that. It feels like it might as well be in the same universe or the same parallel dimension as Flash and everybody else.
I think they're supposed to be. I think they're all supposed to be in the same. That's the whole thing of it
Yeah.
now. They're all supposed to be in
Yeah.
the same universe. Flash, all of it. So they're
That makes the whatchamacallits that much easier to do.
yeah, because they're getting ready to do a Justice League type thing.
Yeah, we'll see how that all works. Anyway, it's shaping up pretty nicely. Anyone else have anything you want to say before we move on?
I'm looking at the wiki. Apparently, Earth 2 does exist post-crisis because a new multiverse was created.
That's a wiki for you. You can never trust a wiki.
Well, this is talking about specifically the Arrowverse.
Yeah, but the way I understand it, that all the universes were into one. Cause I just watched Crisis the other day. So
Well, no, because at the end of Crisis, you had Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come Superman flying with the Kingdom Come crest recolored.
Mm.
So you definitely had you had. Wait, hold on. I'm gonna go YouTube and look at it real quick.
In the comics crisis, they had all kinds of they came up with all kinds of different ways for explaining how there were still some parallel things, like there was that whole pocket universe that Superboy Prime was in, and he ends up becoming this huge supervillain at some point, and he was the supervillain that we all thought of as being from Earth 1, but actually ended up being from Earth Prime, which was supposed to be like the real world. Whatever. It was
now-
very confusing.
There's the dark multiverse.
Yes, and now there's actually what's going on in DC Comics right now is a lot of characters are realizing that they've been rebooted. It's very meta what's going on right now.
Then you've got an alternate evil Batman corrupting people and creating an evil Justice Society. Supergirl and a bunch of others are now Jokerized.
Yeah, so at the end of Crisis, you have an Earth 2 tag, and then we go right into the
Yeah,
Justice Society,
that's it.
and then we go to Earth 9 with Earth 19. I mean,
That's Titans.
No, it's Swamp Thing.
Interesting.
And then we go to Earth 96, which would be, I guess, the Christopher Reeve / Brandon Routh Superman. And we get that iconic flying around the world.
Right, of course. Okay, well, we'll keep posted as we dive deeper into this world. And let's move on to another comics universe, and that is the Marvel cinematic universe, which has given some first looks to their upcoming movie, The Eternals, which is supposed to be, I guess, not exactly a reboot, but sort of a launching of a new phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Any of you get a chance to take a look at some of the teasers that have been released around that, as well as I guess there's also some teasers around the revamped X-Men we're going to see in Marvel now that they're all under the same roof.
I really like the cosmic stuff that the MCU has done. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. I love the intergalactic road trip that Thor took in
Ragnarok.
And all of the other really out there extra, just the outer space stuff is just so much fun. And I love what they've done so far, with the exception of the Immortals. So
Agreed.
What I've seen so far of the Eternals, the casting, the teaser images, and I'm paging through the video now. I'm interested.
Okay.
They've got a pretty solid cast for the Eternals. So, and apparently they're supposed to be related to Thanos somehow. So that should be fun.
Yeah, I've always found the comics version of the Eternals a little boring, but I'm going into this with an open mind. If there's a way to make them kind of more compelling, I'm all for it. Anybody else? Marvel fans?
I'm pretty much
I
done
haven't
with
seen any of
superhero.
the new stuff.
Yeah, we know.
We know, son. We know.
We know. Okay, so we'll take us into something we know you do still love, or at least care about, son, and that's Doctor Who, and the news that there was a release of a short animated film starring David Tennant's Doctor, called The Secret of Novice Haim. It is, from an animation perspective, not the most thrilling short film you'll ever see. It's technically animated, but it's mostly people fade in and fade out, or when they move, it's more of a dissolve than an actual movement. But David Tennant's Doctor does show up.
So more of a motion comic or graphic novel.
Yeah, kind of.
Novel.
It's more like a motion comic, I guess.
Yeah.
In some ways. But anyone have a chance to watch it's about 11 minutes long.
Yes.
And David Tennant actually does appear in it. His comic version looks pretty cool, I think. Son, you want to lead us off on this one?
Okay, so a little bit of background that even I didn't know. There was a new YouTube channel started called Doctor Who Lockdown, and it was a bunch of Doctor Who shorts and stories set during while everybody was in quarantine. And this actually came out as a result of them rewatching the 2 episodes with Novice Haim in them. And it's kind of further explores her life, what she went on to do, and this scene, this setting that we see as this moving art piece is the end of her life, and this desperate secret she is trying to portray to the one person she knows will probably get the job done.
So what did you think?
I'll be honest, I enjoyed it. I did. It made me cry, especially at the end. And
It was very ponderous,
and not because she died. I won't give the ending away, so you guys can go and watch it. But yeah, no, I cried because a thing that was going to happen didn't happen.
They also revealed that the Doctor may have actually also existed in animal form.
That's true as well, yeah.
It'd make for a great season.
Yeah.
Woof.
Doctor Who,
The doggy doctor.
the wolf doctor.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. As much as we talk about the Doctor being a human or a Gallifreyan shape, when she says animal form, my first thought wasn't like an actual animal. It was like her, or like the Jadoon, which are animal-shaped humanoid creatures, aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have a conversation and we talk about male and female, we generally speak on those terms of humanoid, wholly humanoid. And when she added the animal part, it's like, oh, like you. Okay, cool. So we had a cat doctor. Cool.
Awesome. Okay, well, give it a watch, folks, and if you have opinions, we can give it a full-on review in a future episode. Let's move on to some industry news arising out of the turmoil that started in Minneapolis and has spread across 150 American cities and 13 countries, which is the Black Lives Matter movement sparked by the death of George Floyd at the hands of the police in Minneapolis. And we've seen probably, we haven't seen a kind of public response like this since probably Martin Luther King's assassination in 1968. We've certainly seen violent protests around similar kinds of circumstances over the past several decades, but not anything in this kind of scope for as many days, and frankly, as many different kinds of people as we're seeing in these various protests, and we're seeing it extend now even into what major corporations like Amazon has done, and Viacom, CBS, and its various television networks, including Nickelodeon, actually had a blackout of 8 minutes and 49 seconds, which matches the amount of time that George Floyd's neck was under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer, saying, "I can't breathe." And so the blackout included the words "I can't breathe" on them, which is a pretty big deal for a single network, but for a network of networks to be doing that is a pretty big deal. And we've seen other kinds of reactions like that from different parts of the media. And but this was CBS Viacom, which is one of the biggest out there. What do you think of this, and the fact that we're seeing a corporatization, if you will, of Black Lives Matter happening in the past week, even though the movement's been around for many years beyond that? Reactions?
I'm a little cynical about it because I know part of it is marketing. Corporations trying to appeal to people to make it look like that they are progressive or sympathetic, when in fact it's just advertising. But it's we've seen them make gestures before, and a gesture is good, but if they really want to be seen as an ally and wanting to make change, they need to put their money where their mouth is.
So if this is all they do, you're going to remain a cynic. But if it's the beginning of other things, then good start.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and say that they're bringing attention to the issue, which I like. I can definitely see where Ross is coming from, and I will even admit that earlier this week, I was very cynical toward Disney, who actually pledged $5 million to a nonprofit social justice organization, which I will say is nice. But I mean, like, I was very cynical in that $5 million from one of the biggest corporations in the country feels more like kind of chump change to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But
sorry to take the mic back, but an example of what a company is doing that's actually good, I'm going to bring up Rooster Teeth again. They're actually devoting hours of their own content to talk to their own Black employees about their experiences and addressing their own failings and their own improvements and what they can do to improve their own communities.
I think this is...
Including Mika Burton, LeVar Burton's daughter.
I think that this is a watershed moment in this country. I don't want to diminish the importance of the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't want to diminish the impact of the death of
George
Mr. Floyd. But the United States, the world basically has been a pressure cooker for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
We are facing something that no one alive, or most people alive haven't faced in their, most people haven't in their life haven't faced. The social isolation. This week I went to work into the office and saw 2 people, and I remarked that it was the first time I saw 2 people that I knew in person, other than my wife and my daughter, or my wife and my son, in 3 months. And it was, I think again, this is one of those things. I guess maybe there's a silver lining of COVID, is that it's forcing people. It has created angst that has helped propagate civil unrest, that helps bring awareness around this issue even more. The other piece is that, within a very short period of time, we had 3 very tragically, we've had 3 lives taken in very tragic circumstances. Ahmaud Arbery, and her name keeps slipping my mind.
Breonna Taylor,
and now George Floyd, and it's chilling that the response to protests to police violence has been more police violence. And I hope that this is a watershed moment where people are, and I'm seeing it in my feed. I tend to lean a little right, right libertarian, and I'm seeing people who, for the longest time, have always posted all lives matter and things like that, start to realize the nature of what's going on, and recognizing that just because you say Black Lives Matter, that doesn't mean all lives don't matter. And so when I look at like a company like CVS Viacom devoting 8 hours or 8 minutes and 46 seconds on Nickelodeon, no less, because that's going to create a lot of uncomfortable conversations. Kids are now going to have to talk with parents. What does this mean? I can't breathe. As a parent who has a 10-year-old child through this has been one of the most challenging things I've ever had to parent, to have to explain to him why the people that I've always told him he could look to trust for help, in this case, failed. George Floyd failed, not just failed him, but failed all of us. And then to see the violence break out, and to see people do things they shouldn't do out of anger, and to see police respond wrongly out of that, and it's just, it's something. One of the things that I saw, and I've been teaching him, is that basically lawlessness begets lawlessness. And that's what we're seeing. And it's been really hard, but I'm not cynical at all. I really like what these people are doing. I like the fact that we have corporate leadership stepping up and making it very clear that we need to see change in this nation.
I do like that viewpoint a lot.
Yeah, no, that's
a very
couldn't
good
put it
view.
any better.
And I really hope
Thank you,
they
Jason.
continue to do this. And it's sad that it takes a tragedy like what happened to the 3 people and many others besides them to bring this to light. And I hope that we can use this for change instead of violence. I hope it brings about positivity. But yeah, it's Black Lives Matter. This is going to be the turning point of all of our history. This is like Martin Luther King marches back in the 60s. This is our turning point. It's our job to make sure that we do the right thing here on out. That we do better than the people before us. We got to make it better. We can't do things like we were. And for the big companies to be pulling together like this, it shows it's time for change.
Yeah, it's definitely a signal, and I agree with you, Ross, that we should approach it with a healthy skepticism, but at the same time, Jason's point really strikes home with me too. And when I was asked about this past week's events by a friend of mine, I said, on one level, I'm really happy to see it happen, in the sense that I really thought that Americans' sense of justice had just been dulled too much by partisanship, by racism, by all the different things that have just pulled us apart, but also made us literally care less about other people. And then to see this sort of wellspring of concern actually lead to action on the streets is not something I thought would ever see again in our lifetime.
Especially when we're
this kind
still
of
dealing
scale.
with a pandemic.
Yeah, in the middle of a pandemic. So to me, that's an extraordinary, and obviously, looting and violence are not things, that I'm thrilled about. But the idea that so many people and in so many cities and now so many countries,
Yeah.
are have turned out for this is remarkable to me, and something I wasn't sure as a society we could care enough about. As a society, as a large group of people. So that's where I
Mike,
see, a kernel of hope.
could I share my personal perspective? And
Of course.
I'm going to completely admit that way back in 2014, that I was one of these all lives matter idiots. And I figured out where this comes from. I am no longer, just so we're clear. I figured out where this comes from, and it has to do with a lot what you say about dulling, but their sense of justice. But America is a very unique country with our diversity, with our system of government, with the fact that we've been able to maintain this constitutional democracy and republic for as long as we have, with all of our strife. And I see the all lives matter perspective as one of being that white people don't want to believe that racism still exists in this country.
Yeah.
That we've gone past that. We elected the first biracial president. We are in, I think actually Barack Obama coined this term, a post-racial society. I could be wrong, but I believe he did. And that was the dream that many people saw. And, this acknowledging that we still have these problems, unfortunately makes people, white people themselves, they reflect, it's as it reflects upon them poorly. And they have to be introspective and look at their own issues. So I see this from perspective of understanding it back then. And now, 6 years later, much more mature, and I always like to say everything, when you have children, you stop looking at things so narrowly. And as my children have grown older and the experience that I've had with them, my position on this has changed remarkably, because there is no doubt that we have a problem. My uncle, Tim, who's only 8 years older than me, he retired 5 years ago from the Rochester, New York Police Department, and as a detective. And he is fully aware of what's going on and the problems. And he's not like, as we discussed, some others who try to pretend that there's no problem, that all cops are the good guys. He's fully aware. And we had discussions about this. And what really came of course, I've agreed with the perspectives on this from the Black Lives Matters movement, but to see, and I was actually at the point where I was like, fuck it, let them burn it all down, because I've thrown my hands up, because nothing seems to get better with this. However, then I saw what happened in Lafayette Square earlier this week, and how Trump single-handedly, and I don't mean to get political on this, but the reality of it is, what was done there was an attack on everything that we hold dear. This was
Warrants.
as far as our Constitution, our system of justice, our principles. This was an attack on what we are as Americans, using the military, using federal government agents to assault protesters so he can get a photo op. And it was a highlight. It just highlighted to me just how incredibly severe this problem is. It just brought it to light. And I made a post on it earlier this week, a couple of days ago, and it was the first politically oriented post I've done in years, because I don't do that on my own profile page. It's not since 2009. It causes too many fights, and I just decided to relieve myself of headaches. I stopped doing it. But I did, and I intend to post more things about this now, because I think that as long as our voices are silent about this, that these problems will continue. And and we need to do what we can. I mean, from my perspective, look, I can't go down to a protest. I can't go down to a business and stand in front and make sure that small business owners' stores are protected and things like that. I have a family. I have a job to do. I unfortunately can't. In fact, here's the reality of it is my job is literally I serve the Black community. That's what I do in my job. My clients, their customers are primarily economically lower class people of color. So I have to be there for them. That's what I do for them. So what I did this week is, and it's the first time I've really thought about doing this, I went and I found charities to support. And I donated to the Innocence Project, and I donated to the American Civil Liberties Union for the first time in my life. And I'm like Jason, I'm a right of center libertarian. But we all need to do whatever we can, no matter how small that can be, I think, at this point, to make our voices heard, to help this cause, to help the cause for justice. Because the reality of it at the end of the day is, if justice is denied to one of us, it is denied to all of us. It's that simple.
The thing that's really chilling is that, when you look at voting records in across the major metropolitan areas over the last few selection cycles, when you look at the major metropolitan areas, you're seeing 15% voter turnout for local elections. 90% of police work is local.
Right.
And so if you're not electing the right mayors, the right city commissioners, if you're not electing the right sheriffs, you're going to get what we get.
Yep.
And interestingly, in Ferguson, Missouri, where the site of another of these unfortunate incidents several years ago, that's happened. Voter turnout they now have I think it's majority person of color. City council, the mayor is African American. They're making some of those changes, and that's really the message I think needs to get out there. Is that what makes America is not about one political party winning. I take great heart in the fact that even in this group of people, we cover quite a bit of territory politically, culturally, and in diversity. And I've always been really proud of being part of this group for that reason. There are things I know Jason and I are on different sides on,
Mm-hmm.
Sean and I are on different sides on, Son and I are different sides on. And that doesn't matter to me. I respect you all, and I don't say that lightly. I think I learn from you all. It's incredibly important to me to hear other perspectives than my own, and try to integrate your reality with the reality that I see. And that's where I think change needs to happen, where we begin to realize that preserving our way of life is about preserving the ability to disagree and be neighbors at the same time.
The hard part I have with American politics is the lack of empathy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the lack of, you're evil because you believe in more social programs, or you are evil because you believe in limited government. That is the cancer that's brewing in our society that is killing it. And until we can realize that there are people of good moral character who just have
don't agree with this. Yeah.
Who have a different way of worldview.
Yeah.
Until we get to that point.
Sit down and have
Sorry,
a discussion.
Travis.
Sit down and have a discussion is what it comes down to. And I, that post I made, because basically I closed that post with saying about what happened in Lafayette Square. I said, there is no debate on this. There's not two sides to this issue. And I have a lot of different friends with a lot of different with diverse political opinions. If I don't care if you disagree with me, you can fuck right the fuck off, is literally what I said. And I said, you are part of the problem. If you think what happened in Lafayette Square was acceptable under any circumstances. And I lost friends over this week. Good friends, guys I've known for years on Facebook. Relationships I've built that were, right-leaning friends In fact, one of the guys I lost he was a never Trumper for the longest time. It's only the last year that he's come around to Trump, and he completely cut me off. And I'm sad to lose him, but at the same time, I don't want that kind of poison where people can't see just how dangerous what happened in Lafayette Square is to the sanctity of this country.
I
the
mean,
Constitution
look
itself.
at the White House now. Look at the White House. It's a goddamn fortress.
Yeah, Trump finally got his wall.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fortress.
Right.
And to be fair, it's working.
House.
When I say someone is my shipmate, it means that I have worked, fought, and bled beside that individual. That I would take a bullet for them. That this is a person that I trust with my life. And sadly, I've had to cut off several of former shipmates because of complicity, more than anything else.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's the word. That's the perfect word for it. It's complicity, and that's what concerns me.
What I would say though, Sean, is remember at one point you were an All Lives Matter person, and it took time for you to evolve and develop, and it's probably because of voices. You had voices in your life who would challenge you and expand you, and so I understand that you may have friends or people that you disagree with passionately on something. I would just encourage you to remember what I just said, find empathy to see where they're at, and hopefully, through relationship, you could, help them open their eyes, even if it's just a little bit.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing is I didn't cut anyone off.
I know. I'm just saying.
Right. But that's what I try to do. That's what in general, that's what I try to, even when we're talking about something as mundane and seemingly meaningless now, as acts are, the discussions I've had with people, like for example, Stephen Mayhew, who is a member of our group and on Facebook and watches our show. Stephen Mayhew and we were bitter enemies on social media.
Oh yeah.
And I challenged him to call me one day, and he did. And we started talking, and we found out we had way more in common than we had differences about. And eventually he came over.
You know how we became friends? We were on James Ham's profile, and there was something about the new Doctor Who, and we were bitching about the new Doctor. We were just going to town, and James is like, if y'all don't shut up, I'm banning you both. And then we like, what are we doing? And then we started talking.
That's James.
Unfortunately, the one that I had to cut off, the only communication, the only talking he wanted to do was sharing memes.
Oh yeah,
okay.
That's all.
Unacceptable.
That is, I agree. That's why I don't allow them on the Axe Monitor group.
I think that
propaganda memes, I should say.
Sean and Justin, that right there is the thing that keeps the polarization as strong as it is the fear that one side may have more in common with the other than they think they do.
Exactly.
Because if they do, that means they're not really enemies. They're human.
Here's the thing with the accents. There's a lot of good people over there. There's a lot of good people over there on that side that, they just want to see Axonar get done. And they're not necessarily supporting Alec, but they're there because they want to see the project done because they have invested in it. So they don't want to get before to get cut off. So they have to preach to the choir.
Yeah, and this brings up the point here. What Son just said, and you're right. What it comes down to at the end of the day with these discussions is that cognitive dissonance is a bitch for everyone. We all have our own biases that we have to overcome, and it's the more you talk with people as opposed to shouting at them or typing in all caps, the more you actually have a discussion with them, the more you do. And it's amazing the difference.
That's why it's in the interest of some people to really exacerbate the differences so that it reduces the chance for empathy. It reduces the chance for people to discover what they have in common. If you can keep them apart for long enough, you win, And
there's a video that came across my feed today with exactly that point. It was from the 1930s after World War II called Don't Be a Sucker. two gentlemen standing in a square where a guy is making one of those vehement protests about real Americans fighting for their own America, and the one of the gentlemen was an immigrant who was in Europe throughout World War II and saw the rise of the Nazis in Germany, and said that people together can resist fascism, can resist this kind of that kind of ideology from taking hold, but if you let us get picked apart and put into separate pieces, that together we can't stand. Together we are weakened, and the weakening of one minority group is the weakening of everybody.
Right. Exactly.
Will say that, Sean, your post that you made, after I completely watched that entire video, for the first time in my life, there was a burning anger inside me that just wanted to go outside, find an American flag, and torch it. And I've never felt that way in my life before. I used to be a very outspoken person against flag burning because I thought it was that's another can of worms, but like just the way the events unfolded, the way Legal Eagle described them, the way that you put it in your own post, I just wanted to. I
understand. I get what you're saying.
Free speech is an overwhelming thing when you realize you have it.
Right, and this is the thing is that, and this is the thing is that, first and foremost, as for your flag burning, hey man, I'm a libertarian. Knock yourself the fuck out is what I say. You know, it's a piece of cloth. Okay,
As long as it's yours.
As long as it's yours, right? Don't burn somebody else's flag. That's the only rules we have. Okay, so but my point here on this is
BYOF.
Yeah, burn your own flag.
Burn your own flag.
Yeah. So my point here on this is that I understand that kind of anxiety about this and the frustration. But then again, I looked at this as not the country. I looked at this as not the United States. I looked at this as one man and his absolute fucking ego is what I looked at it. And you know, I'm not at that point where I've given up hope in America, because quite frankly, what I've seen this in the last week from the people themselves, because that's what this government is. We are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And what I've seen from these people has brought a new sense of hope for me. And, you know, and that includes the positive videos I've seen of police officers who did the right thing. I saw a black female police officer just take on a white cop who was giving a protester a hard time. She literally dragged him away, yelling, "No, no, 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 no!" And it brought me to tears. I'm starting to tear up thinking about it, because we are seeing the worst, a lot of the worst in our culture right now. But we are seeing so much good that I don't want it to be ignored. You know, Americans are being as American as fuck right now, is what I'm saying. Okay, so let's not worry about, you know, the orange goon in the White House. I mean, not worry about him, but worry about him destroying America, because he cannot. We will persevere. We will overcome.
Let him hide in his bunker. We'll get the job done.
Let him inspect his bunker.
Yeah.
Well, folks, thank you so much for your thoughts on all this. We went a little long on it, but I think it was I really appreciate hearing from all of you on it. And it's important to understand that being a super geek means that you're also incredibly interested in what's going on in our own worlds. And there's none more real than the one we're in right now. So
Part of being a geek, especially a Star Trek nerd, is, I mean, you know, you're supposed to care for everybody.
You should have some social conscience. I agree with you on that, Justin.
I mean,
passion is also a big part of it.
Even if you do not like somebody, I mean, you still can care for them. I mean, you know, we saw that this week with Alex having his mother sick. You know, all the support for him and his family. I mean, you know, we may hate Alec Peters as a person, but, you know, we can resonate with what's going on with that particular issue. I mean, you know, that's someone's parent. Yeah, no one wishes that on anybody.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even hate Alec Pierce as a person. I just, if he's going to make his fan film, he needs to spend his own money at
Yeah.
this point.
Sure,
As
sure.
far as the Star Trek aspect of it, like after, like I shared Star Trek's Black Lives Matter message, and that there have been some mixed receptions to that, but thankfully, I mean, a lot of the people who have come forward to react to it have been very supportive of what's going on. So yes, I do believe that the Star Trek fandom, for the most part, is very, very much in the right place on this
They get it.
issue. Yeah.
For the most
Yep.
part.
Yes.
Come,
for the most
they should get it. If they're a Star Trek fan, they should get it.
It's funny because what I'm seeing from the opposition on this, what I'm seeing is it's the same knee-jerk tired memes over and over again is what I'm seeing. It's like you're not even thinking for yourself. You're just regurgitating the same claptrap that you've done over the last 6 years. You know, take a step back.
And thankfully, I have purged most of those people off my list. Yeah, I just,
Oh,
I don't.
I get to a point with me where I get to annoy the shit out of people to the point where they dump me. So that's that's really what it comes down to in general.
Well, I think I'm going to close this out for tonight. Thank you again. Save your what I've been watching for next week, and we'll pick up there so you can have a double helping next week. Once again, thank you to all of my fellow co-hosts for your thoughts and perspectives on the goings on in the world today, in addition to our usual topics. And I look forward to talking to you all again next week. Thanks, everyone. Live long and prosper.
Bye.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
I'll be over there soon, Ross. I swear.
Bye bye. Okay, stopping.